Hari Om. Yes, we will start with our first story in the story series on the stories from the Upanishads. So, like I said in the introduction, a lot of stories are seen in the various Upanishads. And we have a very powerful Upanishad called the Kenopanishad. Kena Upanishad. Kena means by whom in Sanskrit. And this whole Upanishad is a description of who is behind all this that's happening. So the teacher, the students had a lot of questions, and the teacher, of course, was trying to answer it in many ways. And then he realized that this concept is so subtle, it's not easy for these disciples to understand. But if I put it in the form of a story, I'm sure they'll be able to grasp it. Thus thinking, the Rishi started narrating a story. And this is how the story goes. So, long ago, when the Devas and the Asuras, who as always battled, and with the help of Bhagwan, who wins? The Devas win. And now the Devas had got their victory. They were back in Swargaloka in full glory. And they decided it was time to celebrate all that hard work which went into winning the battle. And then they all sat together. They had lots of, lovely food, yummy food, and there was celebration. And amidst all this, they were discussing whose great powers were involved in this victory. And each of them was proud of their respective powers, right? Agni was proud of his power of burning, Vayu was proud of his power of blowing things away. So each one was busy talking about their contribution to this victory. And at that time, when they were sitting and talking, they all saw this huge, bright ball of light kind of thing just go past. And they wondered, did you all see that? What was that? And each of them looked at each other and said, yes, I saw it, but I don't know what it is. And then Indra said, we must find out what this big ball of light is. And first he said, Agni, you go check what that light is. Go follow that light. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll find out. They were all in that mood of, bragging about themselves, being proud of their powers. Agni said, I'll find out. I'll be back in 2 minutes. And he ran out. He went following that ball of light. That ball of light gave him quite a chase. And at one point it stopped. Agni looked at that ball with a lot of curiosity. It was in the form of a yaksha. A yaksha is a being without a body like ours. And it was a bright yaksha. It was just full of light. And Agni asked, tell me who you are and what you're doing here. And the yaksha said, before that, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? Agni felt a little insulted. Said, what? You don't know who I am? Are you sure? Don't you know who I am? The yaksha said, I don't think so. And then Agni started, oh, I am Agni, the god of fire. With my powers, I can burn this entire world into ashes. The yaksha looked at him and said, oh, is that so? Can I see your powers? He picked up a dry blade of grass and kept it and said, dear Agni, why don't you blow this and show me your tremendous power of burning? Agni looked at that dry blade of grass and said, I can burn huge forests and you are showing me one dry blade of grass? And he looked at that grass and tried to burn it. Nothing happened. Then he put a little more power of burning that he is, right? Nothing happened. There's a lot of intensity. He did that. Nothing happened to that blade of grass, and that Yaksha could not hide that smile of his. All right, so Agni was terribly embarrassed, and he bent his head in shame and walked back. He hurried back to Indra and said, "Oh Lord Indra, I don't know what that Yaksha is." And he walked off. Indra and the others didn't know what had happened. Then Indra said, "Okay, Vayu, you go check." Now Vayu went. He also went with a huff and puff. And he said, "I'll be back in 2 minutes." He also went. The Yaksha was very much there. And same dialogue ensued between the two. And when Vayu asked, "Who are you?" the Yaksha said, "Why don't you introduce yourself first?" Vayu again, he also felt insulted. "Don't you know who I am? I am Vayu, the god of wind, and I can blow the 3 worlds away." And the Yaksha said, "Oh, is that right? Okay." And he picked up a blade of grass and he kept it and said, "Can you blow this and show me your great power?" Vayu looked at that and said, "I can blow away mountains. With my wind, I can destroy all the things in this world. And you're showing me a blade of grass to blow?" And he did. He thought that should do. Nothing happened. It didn't budge. He said, "No, the blade of grass remained where it was." He took a deep breath. Oh, nothing really happened. The blade of grass was as is. He gathered all his strength and he blew with full intensity. Nothing happened. The blade of grass continued to remain where it was, the way the Yaksha had kept it. Vayu was terribly embarrassed. He had his hung in shame and walked. He went back fast to Lord Indra and he said, "That Yaksha." And he walked off. Again, Indra and the others were wondering what happened. Why did Agni and Vayu come back like this? Indra said, "I will go and check this myself." And he went. And at this time, when he went, he was very curious, but he did not have that arrogance of Agni or Vayu. So he went and he looked for the Yaksha, and that Yaksha then turned. Indra asked the Yaksha, "Pray, dear being, please tell me, who are you and what you're doing here?" And seeing this humility of Lord Indra, the Yaksha now took the form of goddess Uma. Who is goddess Uma? She is the daughter of the Himalayas. And goddess Uma said, "Oh, that bright light that you just saw, that bright light is none other than the Brahman, which is behind the powers that you and your other devatas have. All your powers are coming from the Brahman alone." And she disappeared. Now Lord Indra felt very bad about what he and the other devatas were talking about a while ago. He said, "Oh, what have we done? We have been drowned in our arrogance and pride that it is our powers that won the war for us. And we completely forgot about the Supreme Lord, about the Supreme Power." And he went back humbled. He went back to the Devatas. He called them all and he narrated to them what had happened. And they all felt very bad for what they had done. And there was a lot of repentance and they felt sorry that they had been so arrogant and proud while it was the power of the Brahman that activated the whole creation. And they understood that their powers can work only because of the presence of the Brahman. And it is not that they have the talent. So let us never say, I did it. Because it is always the Lord or Brahman plus me, isn't it? And this is what, by whom, right? Kenopanishad, Kena, by whom? While all of us feel, I did this, I did that, I was able to do this, I have this talent, I have this power, we forget where that power is actually coming from. And when we forget where our powers are coming from, we become proud and arrogant. And the Rishi in the Kenopanishad was trying to explain to the disciples that power behind the powers of the Devatas, which means, in our case, the power of the eyes to see comes from the Brahman. But the eyes cannot see the Brahman. The power of the nose to smell comes from Brahman. But the nose cannot smell Brahman. The power of the ears, the hearing capacity, comes from the Brahman. But the ear cannot hear the Brahman. The power of the skin to feel comes from the Brahman. But the skin cannot feel the Brahman. The power of the mind comes from Brahman. But the mind cannot grasp Brahman. The power of the buddhi comes from Brahman. But the buddhi cannot think and analyze and decide as to what the Brahman is. And that Brahman is the supreme power that is activating the whole creation, including every one of us. This is the message, the deep message of the Upanishads given to us in such a beautiful story narrated by the Rishi to his disciples. I hope you all enjoyed the story. I certainly enjoyed telling you the story. Hari Om. Oh, wait a minute. Did I tell the story? Yes, it's the power of the Brahman in me that told the story in this session. And our humble pranams to the Supreme Power. Let this ego always be kept in check. Shall we remember this at all times? Kena, by the Supreme Power. Hari Om.